Good afternoon. My name is Jim Satterwhite. I'm Chief Executive Officer and partner of VenturePoint Incorporated. We're a managed service provider located in Jacksonville, Florida. The reason someone is interested in or utilizes cloud services are really predominantly two reasons. One, security, meaning if a catastrophe happens at their office or wherever their data source is, that there's some form of a backup so that they can re-access that data and continue on in whatever their business or their operation would require. The second reason for cloud services or cloud-based environments are multi-point access. You have employees in the field that need to obtain and get into the same data records, or you want to accumulate those records into a single source for further backing up, encryption, or securement. Usually what drives a customer to either one of those situations is a catastrophe of some sort. They've either lost their data, had a hard drive die, had an office that got closed or burned or locked out of. So apprehension as to going to the cloud typically is a lack of understanding. People visualize literally a cloud. They don't know where their data is. They don't understand the pretense of security around that data or the accessibility of that data. So they're just fearful of the unknown. They know, I look at my computer, that's where my data is at, and that's what they're comfortable in seeing. The other reason people are fearful of it is the cost. And usually that has come from a mismanaged experience, meaning their cloud provider had previously charged them for backups, backup intervals, or backup amounts that were just not necessary once done a first time. A good example of that is backing up data that you've been keeping on hand just in case you may need to access that data at some point. This could be 6-year-old data. Our philosophy is there's no sense in having that backed up every single day, every single month if you never access that data. Let's do one full backup, archive that backup, and keep that usable data on the front side where it's constantly being integrated into the cloud environment and backed up on an up-to-the-minute, hour, daily, monthly environment. That way, the amount of data you're backing up is shrinking. It's only an incremental backup when the backup happens, which reduces your bandwidth, the amount of bandwidth that that's taking, the time of day that it has to be done, or it can actually help you increase the frequency of the time you do those backups. We were talking with a firm here in Jacksonville. They had a nice backup, external drive backup on their servers there locally. Spoke very proudly of their environment, which as usual turned out to be a closet in the hallway, totally unsecure and without adequate temperature control. And we asked the question, what happens if your building burns? Their response was, well, I have my backup. Well, no, you don't. The building just burned. With it, your server, with it, that external hard drive. So what would you do in that circumstance? They hadn't thought through a complete catastrophe. So what a cloud backup does for you is that takes that data, all of your information, and if you're doing a full-scale backup, all of your operating systems and applications as well, and moves that into a secure environment that is encrypted and managed by us as your managed service provider. A very good example of the use of cloud storage was after our most recent hurricanes last season. Where the Wells Fargo building, we have multiple clients in the building. It's a wonderful building, very secure building. The basement of the building being the parking area and the controls for elevator power and what have you of the building flooded. So the Monday after the storm, I believe it was, our clients received correspondence and phone calls from the property manager explaining that they could not return to the building. The building structurally was fine, but had no power to the building and did not know when they would be able to access their offices. This obviously impacts their ability to conduct their business rather. In this case, these clients were attorneys. They had court hearings scheduled. They had all of their documents for these court hearings stored in their environments. But because they had cloud services through VenturePoint, we were able to spin them up in a virtual environment, deliver to them desktops and laptops out of our inventory into an alternate work site, and they were back up and running within a couple of days, able to defend the cases that they were there and scheduled to defend in the courts, and to protect their clients and their livelihood of what they were there to do. So again, that's a good example of having the appropriate backup into a cloud and virtual environment to restore your environment offset circumstance, and B, the ability to access that data from multiple sites under temporary work conditions that otherwise just could not have been done because everything was there in the office. So even the best made plans can fall apart if just simply you cannot get to your office. It doesn't have to be that your office burned. Again, with VenturePoint owning its own infrastructure, using data centers to house our infrastructure, our servers, here in Jacksonville, Austin, Texas, and in Canada, allow us to better control those environments, better manage how the data is stored, encrypt that data inbound and outbound, so no one, employee of VenturePoint or anyone, has any access to what that data is, and then presents that data accessibility or delivers it back to the desktop or the local server environment for our client. The reason we chose these locations is really has to do with climate. Austin, Texas is obviously known as a high-tech centered population and city center. It's also known for very few local weather, climate-related catastrophes. Biggest threat there is possibly some, like a tornado or a really bad thunderstorm or hailstorm. Our data centers are certainly built to be able to take those types of impacts. But if Jacksonville has a hurricane and we lose all power, we have hot redundancy into Austin, Texas. Our clients really are not impacted at all. It takes a total of about 20 minutes to redirect a couple of files and IPs, and we're up and running in Austin almost simultaneously as a result of that hot redundancy. But if there was some problem in somehow region, let's say we were hit by a hurricane and they were hit by a tornado, then we have a warm redundancy to a data center in Canada where we can flip over within about 2 hours and then continue to get access to the same data and service our clients as a result. That is certainly the more expensive way to go about things as a managed service provider, because again, those are our servers, that's our backup, our switches, our panels, our power sources, and our monthly fee to house all of that in secure racks in these data centers. We have to be cutting edge in our understanding and application of certain requirements. HIPAA, for example, PCI, personal information management, cyber laws relative to how data is encrypted or protected, how are emails being read or not read electronically. What I mean by that is, for example, HIPAA requirements state that no form of patient data be shared electronically via emails. So, kind of in conclusion, I think a better understanding of what a managed service provider can do for you as a business. A good, full breadth managed service provider should talk to you about everything from your business resumption and continuity planning to your security documentation and cyber planning, to who your internet service providers are, what contractual basis you have with them, what plans you have relative to the applications you're now using or will be using in the future, and what your growth plans are as a business. All of those things come in to be what a managed service provider should be working with you on as to the equipment needs you might have, the security needs you're going to have, the cloud environments that would be needed to back up and secure your data or to manage your data from multiple facets of access, and also be most interested in you saving money and maximizing any investment you're making on your part.